Hello? Hey guys, how's it going? Leon Kurita-Goudlock here. This is vlog number 4. So, as has been the situation for the last 4 days, and as is the situation today, I'm in my kitchen again, getting more and more into winter here on the East Coast. So, blinds still closed, it's still freezing outside. Colder than yesterday, but we're doing this. It's a little bit difficult too on the East Coast when you live in an apartment building because we actually have central heating here. So everyone in LA is probably like, what does that even mean? What's central heating? And until they turn on the heat in the building, there's no heat in the rooms. So you need to invest in things like room heaters and all of that. Primitive stuff, so those are going to be coming out real soon, I think. So getting into it, I wanted to talk about the topics for today. There's 3 of them, and the first one is patience, the second one is knowing yourself, and the third one is putting in the work. So these do tie back to a few of the things I had been talking about in the other vlogs. I'll get into why in a second, but I figured that we could start with patience for today. So I was watching a couple of motivational speakers online yesterday. I do this kind of every day, so you might see me mention that a lot. It's because I do it every day on the train into work and on the train ride home. If I'm not listening to an audio tape or reading an article on a news site or something, that's usually what I'm doing. It's not because I think I particularly need motivation every day from outside sources. I have a lot on my own, but it's just interesting to get other people's perspectives consistently. As the world changes, so do their views, and that helps you kind of stay current and stay updated on yourself and how you look at things, how you view things. So yesterday, one of the things that they were talking about was, things that define them, words that define them. So whether that's, so the question would be, if you were in a job interview, tell me one thing that your friends would say about you. What's the word that your friends would use to describe you? So I think for me, and a lot of you know me, so you might not be thinking the same right now, but I'll explain. The word that I think defines me right now is patience. And when I really kind of look at it from a few different angles, I think it's been the word that has defined me most of my life. And the reason for that is because when I was young, I had none. So when I was young, there was a severe lack of patience, almost to a fault, and that was why that word defined me in my younger years. So again, 31 now, and I can safely say that when I think about especially the past 3 years and what has helped me get through some of the tougher times in my life, I think that there's been kind of a switch in momentum here in terms of my ability to be patient and to deal with things and experiences and people in life in a different way than I used to. So just to kind of reiterate, I was kind of defined by this word when I was younger because I had none. It was kind of a weakness that hindered me, and now I think it's more of a strength that defines me. So ask yourself, I asked you yesterday to think about a word on the blog and what that meant, kind of what that connotation looked like to you in your mind. Ask yourself now, what do you think that one key word is that defines you, and why? Are there any different ways to look at it, and what does that really mean? Kind of unpack it in your own mind. So it's interesting when you think about the word that defines you, and maybe you want this to be something that you consider a strength. Maybe you don't have it yet. Maybe there's a trait in your mind that you want to be able to associate more with yourself, and you're just not there yet. Well, it's interesting because you can train this. You can definitely train it and get better at it. So for example, patience. One way that I was able to train this myself through an action was this thing that I'm doing now, fasting. So I talked about it the other day. I do a lot of fasting, 3 days, 5 days, going into a 10-day fast during the holidays upcoming. And if there's one thing that will teach you patience, it's definitely not eating. And I'm sure that you can understand why, because we've been trained, our whole lives to wake up and want to eat 3 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, dinner. So 6 a.m., 12 noon, and 6 p.m. we are definitely hungry. You're not thinking about work or school or, classes or anything. You're most likely thinking about what's in the kitchen or what's about to be on your plate in front of you. But if you challenge yourself to something like a fast, there's definitely a mental hurdle and an emotional hurdle that can only be overcome by patience. So, not that I went into fasting with the goal of making one of my weaknesses a strength, which was patience, but it was just kind of an extra benefit that I was able to gain along the way. So that's definitely something that I wanted to say today, because it is very possible to train yourself and to make weaknesses strengths and to kind of redefine or kind of remold what defines you. So think about that. Now, the other thing, and I kind of want to link this to the next topic, which is it's going to be putting in the work, but the middle topic that kind of connects patience to putting in work is knowing yourself. Now, being in marketing and also being somebody who lacked patience, and also kind of just being alive in this day and age when things like social media and what the person next to you are doing is so much more important than it used to be. Knowing yourself is extremely important, and the more that you know yourself, the easier life will be. The way that I mean that, so simple example, and I know that anyone who uses Instagram or any other piece of social media, just like we are right now, so Facebook, so anyone watching this live will know what I mean. But you have to know yourself, and you have to be able to be happy with yourself. To some degree, that requires that you put the blinders on in life and are able to kind of not shut out the world around you in a sense that you don't let anything affect you in a positive or a negative way, but you need to be able to put the blinders on and kind of consistently audit your reality. So auditing your reality means, consistently knowing who you are and what you're about, and that the person next to you and what they're about, their struggle, their achievements, their strengths and weaknesses, while everything might look amazing, or not, while everything might look a certain way, it's most definitely 9 times out of 10 not exactly what it seems. There are a lot of circumstances that you'll never know, in terms of what's going on in the life of the person next to you that have influenced or are influencing why they are who they are, why they have what they have. And if you know yourself well, you'll be able to avoid falling into kind of that trap of caring too much about the outside, and you'll be able to stay focused on yourself. But if you are not kind of in tune with your own reality, and if you don't know yourself well enough, you will fall into that trap. I know it because I used to fall into it all the time, and that destroys patience. So in terms of the word that I used to define myself 5 minutes ago, I was only able to make that weakness a strength when I stopped looking around so much. So I think a lot of people who knew me maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and if we had ever had a conversation about like what is your dream, what do you want out of life, I can definitely say that I'm sure what I would have told you back then is a lot more shallow than I would have told you if we were having that conversation now. And maybe we will on another vlog. Maybe we'll have that be a topic, just kind of goals in life and things like that. But definitely a lack of knowing myself was definitely contributing back then to that weakness in terms of patience. And as I grew to know myself more, that's the only way that I was able to turn that weakness into a strength. So again, auditing yourself, being self-aware, keeping the blinders on, and somebody said it yesterday on one of the podcasts I was listening to, but not chasing a narrative. So it's really easy to get caught up in other people's stories, almost. Whether this is things that you read in the tabloids or stories that you read on the news, or if you have a favorite blogger that you follow and you're just, infatuated with their situation and their life, or whether it's, a group of kids on Instagram that they're always doing the next cool thing, they always have the next cool toy, or they're always going to the next cool place, and you're just, finding yourself sitting there and trying to insert yourself into their life and their situation. That may be a good sign that it could be the perfect time to kind of step back and audit your reality and really kind of get to know yourself a little bit more. I promise you it will help you so much, because you'll be able to calm down. You'll be able to tell yourself in certain situations, I don't need to worry about this anymore, because it doesn't affect me in the way that it might used to have affected me. So these two are the first topics I kind of wanted to get into, and I really want you to think about that as you go into to work today, or as you come home if you're in Asia watching right now. What is that word that defines you? Is it right now more negative than positive? And if it's a little bit more negative, why would that be? And how can you turn that into a positive? Because, at the end of the day, I think we all want to be happy. So, right there, so you have to be optimistic to get it done at the end of the day, and to, I think, have a good life. The words optimism and pessimism wouldn't even, I don't think, exist if one of them weren't what we should be doing, and the other one was not what we should be doing. So you definitely want to be on the optimistic side of the scale. If you're not there yet, definitely try and unpack that and find out why, and get yourself on the other side as soon as possible. So the third topic that I wanted to talk about today, and this definitely has a link to some of the stuff I was talking about in the second and third vlogs, kind of like the routine and putting in 6 weeks, is putting in the work. And when I say putting in the work, I don't mean it in the same sense as I was kind of explaining putting in 6 weeks to you yesterday. So consider the 6-week term that I had mentioned yesterday as a period of validation. You need at least 6 weeks to really, really validate whether or not the thing that you're trying to do is giving you a proper result. So that was kind of what I was mentioning the other day. What I mean by putting in the work, it's a lot more nitty-gritty. So I really mean that you need to do 2 things. One of them is that you really need to sweat and bleed and cry and strive, not to get too literal, but I mean you need to really feel it when you're going for your goals. It's not, and it shouldn't be, I think, as simple as just, getting up and going through a motion for a certain period of time or something like that. You may end up, if you're not mentally and physically as invested as possible in what you're doing, realizing one day that you've been coasting through. And if you're coasting, 6 weeks will not even mean anything. 10 years won't mean anything. A lot of the time on the job, I run into people who, they say, I have 10 years experience in this, or I have 15 years experience in that, or I've worked at 3 companies and I've learned this and this and this. I think that, now more than ever, statements like that actually mean nothing, because you could meet somebody who's done something for 10 years and they could be the worst at it that you've ever met in your life. Or you could meet, a whiz kid or a boy or girl genius, and they could have just discovered their God-given talent. It could be their second day doing something, and they could be better because they just have it and other people don't. So, it's not the length of time that you do something for until it's the way that you're putting in the work during that extended period of time. So the 6 weeks does not come with meaning unless you are putting in the work in the right way. And that takes a lot of knowing yourself, because you have to be able to adapt and optimize throughout the process. What I also mean by putting in the work, and this has also helped me to hone this thing, patience, that I was mentioning earlier. What I mean by putting in the work is that you need to add on to what you're doing a little bit every day. So taking too much on at once, trying to do everything right away to get to this kind of like the end of the road, or the self-gratification that we all seem to want. I think it's more proliferated in American society than it was for me in Japanese society. But you need to add a little bit every day and pace yourself. Otherwise, you will burn out. You need to realize, or I want you to realize, that there's no rush, and it's much better to be in things for the long run. Play the long game, and you will win more times out of 10 than you will if you're just playing the short game. So the way that you're able to play the long game, first of all, you have to be patient. Long games require patience, and to make the most out of it, so to come into it and then get out the other end with the result that you want, you definitely need to be able to know yourself, to continuously audit your reality, and to optimize the situation for you and for your growth, so that you can step it up in the right way. Otherwise, if you're not able to know yourself and optimize, you'll definitely get used to things halfway through the process. And, because this is just kind of human nature, it's going to be it's just going to be really easy without noticing to turn off that switch in your mind, and you end up coasting, and then you realize that you might not have made it as far as you had originally planned. You might have forgotten your original goal that you had started with, etc. But if you put in the work in the right way, and you consistently are cognizant and considerate of the process, and you respect the process, you'll definitely be able to make a result. While you're doing this too, and this was another thing that I had to realize, you definitely need to check your pride at the door. So being patient, knowing yourself, and putting in the work definitely require that you check your pride at the door. Pride, I think, the negative connotation of pride is definitely something that we could all do better with a little bit less of. So this was another kind of lesson for me along the way to becoming a more patient person, was checking my pride at the door. Because at the end of the day, you're not ever going to be just like the person next to you. You're not ever going to have exactly what they have. And if you're able to know yourself deeply, you'll realize that you don't even want to have exactly what they have. Going back to the first vlog that I did, that's just all about knowing what you want, and not worrying about all of that outside noise. If you know that, you're definitely able to check that pride at the door and do for you rather than doing for others. So if you remember the first vlog topic that I had given, this is definitely key. So example, right? Because the bell curve is different for everybody. So quick example of what I mean by that and how it connects back to pride. I went to grad school in Japan, and a lot of the people around me had goals that were a little bit different than mine, I would say, and that was why grad school was so interesting, because you meet a lot of people who are at this age where they've either already done things that you can learn from, hearing about their experiences, etc., or they have these amazing goals, and they're in the middle of doing amazing things in their life, and it's extremely motivational if you have the right mindset. If you don't, grad school, I think, can actually be a difficult place to exist, because you may not be as far as everyone else is when you get into that classroom. It's not like university or high school, in the sense that everyone around you is most likely the same age or in the same situation as you. There are so many different people from so many different walks of life. So I think that self-actualization and knowing yourself are those are definitely key if you're going to be somewhere like a postgraduate degree program. So when I had graduated, I joined the current company that I'm at and started in this kind of retail sector. And at the time, if I remember what I felt, I wasn't exactly sure that was quote unquote good enough for what I thought I should probably be doing after coming out of a graduate program. I wasn't, I don't think that I was making the salary that I had imagined I would be, just by, and I don't know how I came to having that image in my mind, but I just remember at the time kind of doubting myself when I was looking around at what other people were getting into as they graduated, and then comparing that to what I was about to get myself into when I graduated. And, so that kind of was very trying on my patience. I can definitely say that the feelings I had at that time were proof that I might not have known myself as well as I do now, and that I definitely didn't understand one more very important thing about this kind of bell curve in life, was that there is a bell curve in life. So certain careers, certain professions, and certain people's personalities, and then there's things like luck and the circumstances that you were born into, which everyone is different. All of those things, pretty much create different bell curves for everyone as they kind of flow along this their life path. So they may peak at a certain age, their career, their salary, their what they're doing outside of work. So if there's like a physical aspect to what they do, definitely age plays a part, so that bell curve is extremely important. And the fact that everyone's bell curve is different automatically makes it completely meaningless to look, to take the blinders off and look to your left and your right and compare yourself to anyone else and let that affect you. Because their situations are all the time, they're going to be constantly different, and their wants, their needs. So, going back to the first thing I mentioned in today's vlog, you never want to feel like you have to compare yourself to the person next to you. Now that doesn't mean don't be competitive, but it means don't let it get the best of you. Because at the end of the day, what they eat, is not going to make your stomach full. What you do is not affecting them. So, keep your eyes on the prize, keep your head down and grind, and stay focused on what you rolled out of bed to do today. the last thing, so putting in the work, going back to this third topic, is that there's no shortcut to success. And I think that you shouldn't actually want there to be a shortcut. I think that people who really want to kind of squeeze the most out of life are not looking for shortcuts. They actually like the grind, and I don't want to say the struggle, but the process. So you shouldn't ever be looking for a shortcut to the top or a shortcut through hardship. And if for anything else, or if for nothing else, the reason that you shouldn't be looking for that shortcut, if it's not for you, think of it as being something for the next generation. So in my case, I definitely want to be able to tell my kids, knock on wood, I hope that, someday we have a happy family. But I definitely want to be telling those future kids of mine about how to make it through the hard times, not, making up stories or, defaulting to how I shortcut everything in life to get to the top, or how I tried to avoid everything that came at me because I wasn't confident enough to take it head on and to challenge what life threw at me. I definitely think that stories of struggle and perseverance are way more interesting than, here's a shortcut, or here are the cliff notes to life, and here's how you can get to the end even faster. Because it's sidebar on that, I always think it's interesting when I ask people, what do you want in life? And it seems like everyone wants to kind of end up in the same place. They want to end up feeling satisfied, so feeling happy, feeling accomplished. They want to end up in, geographically a place where they can relax and kind of live out their later years with a little bit more peace than I think they had in the younger years. And they want, of course, to be healthy and well, but no one seems to want to do that without first getting rich, or, becoming a millionaire, or, becoming king or queen of the world. I don't think that that's necessarily the point. I think that, a much more interesting way of looking at, where we all want to end up is it's going to be extremely interesting when you look back, because you don't want to count the cost. Like I've been saying, when you look back and you can look at yourself and your life and say that you respected the process, you audited yourself, optimized for your situation, you knew yourself and were patient and were able to get through everything that life threw at you with that process. Because with a good process, you will automatically be that much closer to a great result, right? And I was kind of talking about that with the 6 weeks and with the things that I was communicating yesterday on the blog. So as long as you are putting in the work, and as long as you have respect for that process, the 6 weeks will be meaningful. If 6 weeks is meaningful, 10 years will be meaningful, 20, 30. And before you know it, you will be there. You will have reached the goal, and you will have done it in a way that I can say I always feel is the best way from the third person perspective when I'm listening to other people talk about their successes. I love hearing stories of struggle and perseverance and how people got through it. And that's where the real tips and tricks come from. So I think that you'll learn the most when you talk to the people who have gone through the most. It doesn't mean when you talk to the people who got the luckiest or who had, necessarily the best circumstances. It's not about, how good the circumstances were. I think sometimes it's about how hard the circumstances were. Those people who end up, still in one piece on the other side of that are the ones that sometimes have the most meaningful lessons in life to teach. Now that's not to discount anyone who does or did have a head start, because I think that any mature individual, or definitely just any adult by now, is able to admit that that's a natural thing in life. So part of putting on the blinders and focusing on knowing yourself is that you also realize that there are some things that you couldn't control, can't control, and will never be able to control. And that's just the way of it. But the winners win, and the losers will lose. So it's all about how you let those things affect you, what you do with it, and then how you take it in and how you put it back out into the universe. So, to close with a couple other examples that you can take with you today about how to put in the work properly. I'll give one about studying and then one about diet, because these are just two things I think have been recurring themes in my life, and they're easy to kind of refer back to. So on the studying, so putting in the work and knowing yourself. When I was learning Japanese, I really quickly realized that I am not the type of person who can just read and learn. I'm somebody who likes to listen, and I'm somebody who likes to take action. And it's not muscle memory, but it's similar. So when I was starting to study and I was realizing, okay, I'm not picking this up as fast as I feel like I need to be. I'm not able to remember, what I studied the day before, etc. I found myself in that situation, and if I had stayed there, if I had not been able to audit my reality and optimize for that reality, then whether I had taken six weeks to learn the language or 2 or 3 years like I said it really took, it wouldn't have mattered, because I might not have gotten there. But I was able to audit my reality, optimize in the middle of what I was doing, and I realized that instead of reading a book every day with vocabulary inside of it, I needed to be standing in front of the mirror reciting words in Japanese to myself, watching my mouth move, listening to the words coming out of my mouth. I needed to have the TV on in the background 24 hours a day on a Japanese news channel, so that I could constantly hear, what they were talking about and how they were speaking the words. And I needed to get out into the world and kind of break out of my comfort zone and have conversation with people. So that's kind of this study-related example about how I was able to put in the work in the right way by knowing myself, optimizing for my situation, and being patient and respecting the process. And lo and behold, I get through, and I can speak another language, which is, I think a great thing. Now, another example, so the gym. Everyone knows, or we'll call it being healthy. Everyone knows, or I hope that you will after you watch this vlog, that being healthy is 20% what you do in the gym and 80% what you put on your plate, what you put in your stomach every day. And me being a person who loves to eat, even now when I love to fast, I also love to eat. So anyone who has ever been out with me before knows that I'll probably eat enough for 3 or 4 people sometimes, and you never want to say that you will treat me because it might not end well. But it's all about, so for people who want to be involved in fitness and to just be in shape, it's not just the gym, it's what you eat. And for some, that's a hard realization. I can tell you that I was not able to, get, for example, the stomach that I wanted or the body fat percentage that I wanted without cutting out dairy. And, you're looking at a kid or a guy who I would always drink whole milk every day. I loved it. It's like drinking cream. Who doesn't love it? Eating cheese, pizza, all of those things that you really love. Having carbs. You have to say goodbye to that stuff depending on what your goal is. And no amount of just purely working out will yield the best results that it would if you also, added the proper diet to that. So working out by itself, yeah, you'll get a result, but working out plus dieting, different world. And so taking that back to why I was mentioning it, this is all about respecting the process and knowing yourself and admitting to yourself when you need to optimize and audit that reality. So it's sometimes they're hard realizations, but if you really want it, you will really, really do it. If you really want it. If you don't, then along the way, you're going to have to really learn to be okay with the results that you do get, because it all depends on how far you want to take it. You can always go further, but there will be, sacrifices along the way. So how much do you respect the process? How much are you really willing to audit your reality? And how seriously are you really going to optimize for your own situation in order to achieve the result that you want? And then, just closing that out, I do recommend that everyone try to make patience a strength. So I'm really happy that I can, confidently say that I think that's one of my strengths these days. I hope I can continue to say that, because the most patient person in the room will more oftentimes than not, be the winner in life. And I'll leave you guys with that today. It has a lot deeper meaning than it may sound like at first. But the most patient person in the room will most often be a winner in life. So I'll let you guys kind of think about that on your ride into work today. Again, so I mentioned yesterday, please share the vlog. Share the vlog, send comments, tell me what you think. I'm having a really fun time doing this stuff. It kind of helps me kind of implement this cycle of self-actualization and consideration for what I'm absorbing and taking in and learning day to day, because it's not easy to to sit here and talk. I know that pro vloggers and pro influencers, they make it look easy, but you definitely have to be extremely, I think, self-aware to be able to hold to hold conversations with yourself for more than a few minutes. So I would love to get some feedback. I would love if you shared this vlog, and I will definitely be respecting this process and continuing with my 6-week and longer journey. So that means I will see you tomorrow morning. Okay, guys? So if you're in Asia, have a good night. If you're in the States, good morning, and I will see you on the grind. Goodbye.